Welcome to DG Reads the Classics. We'll get on with the show in just a moment, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Improv. Always fresh, never frozen, or pre-packaged. It's Improv, it's always new, and it always tastes different. Improv. And Pants. When you need to come across as a functioning adult, at least for men, choose Pants. Pants. Stay tuned after the chapter for a special ad from our sponsors. Pants. Hey everybody, welcome to DG Reads the Classics. It's me, DG, or Doug, or Douglas, if I've not reported my terrible grades to you, and it took me so long because the teacher had to tell you, and I ended up having to get detention because of my delinquency and communication. Hey, welcome to DG Reads the Classics, where I read to you certain classics that are in the public domain, and I go off on tangents, or ideas, or fancies that may strike my brain, in which I feel like I must lend my voice. So, we are gonna jump right in. It's Chapter 2 time. So, here we go. Chapter 2. A mystery to be solved at any price. That study of his was a museum, and nothing else. Specimens of everything known in mineralogy lay there in their places in perfect order, and correctly named, divided into inflammable, metallic, and lithoid minerals. How well I knew all these bits of science. Many a time, instead of enjoying the company of lads of my own age, I had preferred dusting these graphites, anthracites, coals, lignites, and peats. With an exclamation point. So, are we getting, sense of Norman Bates here? Rather spend time with rocks, or dead animals, non-living, completely manageable items, or else he's gonna kill somebody? Well, what happens here with this guy? And what are his social skills like? Is he going to walk up to him, look at these rocks? Oh, why do they always run away? And there were bitumens, resins, organic salts to be protected from the least grain of dust, and metals from iron to gold, metals whose current value altogether disappeared in the presence of the Republican equality of scientific specimens, and stones, too, enough to rebuild entirely the house in Koenigstrasse, even with a handsome additional room, which would have suited me admirably. So really, this guy's shooting low. He is not doing so well in life. He really wants and dreams for an added room. But on entering this study now, I thought of none of all these wonders. My uncle alone filled my thoughts. He had thrown himself into a velvet easy-chair and was grasping between his hands a book over which he bent, pondering with intense admiration. And I figure now is a good enough time to say, let's give these guys some voices. So since he's a wiry old man who's, from Germany, German accent. "Here's a remarkable book! What a wonderful book!" he was exclaiming. These ejaculations brought to my mind the fact that my uncle was liable to the occasional fits of bibliomania. But no old book had any value in his eyes, unless it had the virtue of being nowhere else to be found, or at any rate, of being illegible. And how hilarious is it that the guy loves his book so much he has figurative ejaculations all over his books. Some people use socks, some people use tissues, but, to each their own. Make your mark on the literary world. Literally. "Well, now, don't you see it yet? Why, I have gotten a priceless treasure that I have found this morning in rummaging in old Hevelius's shop, the Jew." Really willing to sling that Jew term around? The writings of 100 years ago. "Magnificent," I replied. I figured, he's going to sound pretty much like me. "Magnificent," I replied, with a good imitation of enthusiasm. What was the good of all this fuss about an old quarto, bound in rough calf, a yellow, faded volume, with a ragged seal depending from it? This kid's obvious come on, uncle, get with the times. The fashion is out of date. Rough calf is so 100 years ago. But for all that, there was no lull yet in the admiring exclamations of the professor. "See," he went on, both asking the questions and supplying the answers. "Isn't it a beauty? Yes, splendid! Did you ever see such a binding? Doesn't the book open easily? Yes, it stops open anywhere." He's obviously, getting into it, getting off on the old books. "But does it shut equally well?" "Yes, for the binding and the leaves are flush, all in a straight line, and no gaps or openings anywhere. And look at its back, after 700 years. Ooh, he likes the old ones. "Why, Bosarian, Klaus, or Purgold might have been proud of such a binding. Oh!" While rapidly making these comments, my uncle kept opening and shutting the old tome. I really could do no less than ask a question about its contents, although I did not feel the slightest interest. "You called me in here for this." "Yeah, it's old. Confirmed." "And what is the title of this marvelous work?" I asked with an affected eagerness, which he must have been very blind not to see through. "This work," replied my uncle, firing up with renewed enthusiasm, "this work is the Heimskringla of Snorre Sturluson, the most famous Icelandic author of the 20th century. It is the chronicle of the Norwegian princes who ruled in Iceland." "Indeed," I cried, keeping up wonderfully. "Of course it is a German translation?" Boy, this kid's got to catch up. "What?" sharply replied the professor. "A translation? What should I do with a translation? This is the Icelandic original, in the magnificent idiomatic vernacular, which is both rich and simple, and admits of infinite variety of grammatical combinations and verbal modifications." "Like German?" I happily ventured. "Yes," replied my uncle, shrugging his shoulders. "But in addition to all this, the Icelandic has 3 numbers like the Greek, and irregular declensions of nouns proper like the Latin." "Ah," said I, a little moved out of my indifference. "And is the type any good?" "Type? What do you mean by talking of type, wretched Axel?" Yeesh. Jagged insults. Wretched. I mean, I get it, he's got to catch up with the times. It's a 700-year-old tome. They're not going to have types back then. Axel, keep moving. Catch up with the professor. But wretched, I mean, that is like, "You wretched dog," or "You wretched beast." I mean, it's like lowest of the low. He just, mistook the time frame for which we are referencing the old ugly book that you are getting off on, Uncle. I guess he's taking it personally, because he's got a boner for it. "Wretched Axel? Type? Do you take it for a printed book, you ignorant fool? It is a manuscript, a runic manuscript." "Runic?" "Yes. Do you want me to explain what that is?" "Of course not," I replied in the tone of an injured man. But my uncle persevered and told me, against my will, of many things I cared nothing about. "Runic characters were in use in Iceland in former ages." It's really funny. It's like, most old people. They just keep going. There ain't no stopping them. "I got something to say," and off they go. "I was looking for prunes. I just needed some prunes. Do you have the prunes that come in the yellow? I want the yellow ones only, and you guys usually carrying them." "Yes, sir. No, absolutely. We don't. Unfortunately, no. We only carry the in-store, in-brand prune." "No, it's not the yellow one. I need the one in the yellow. A long time ago, my mom used to make me..." "Yes, sir. I understand. Your mother used to make you breakfast.
She used to make me the best oatmeal with the best prunes, and it was in a yellow jar, and so I have..."
"I understand. You have a deep association with memories of your childhood with a yellow jar of prunes. Your life is very sad. I have nothing for you, sir. If you want prunes and you don't care for the color of the jar, which makes no difference of the actual taste or memory resonance thereof that would remind you, they're on aisle 5.
"What? You have prunes?"
"Runic characters were used in Iceland in former ages. They were invented, it is said, by Odin himself. Look there and wonder, impious young man," again very harsh, "and admire those letters. The invention of the Scandinavian god." It's very impressive. I'm not going to lie, I get it. Well, Not knowing what to say, I was going to prostrate myself before this wonderful book, a way of answering equally pleasing to gods and kings, and which has the advantage of never giving them any embarrassment, when a little incident happened to divert conversation into another channel. This was the appearance of a dirty slip of parchment, which slipped out of the volume and fell upon the floor. My uncle pounced upon the shred with incredible avidity. An old document, enclosed an immemorial time within the folds of this old book, and for him, an immeasurable value. "What's this?" he cried, and he laid out upon the table a piece of parchment, 5 inches by 3, and along which were traced certain mysterious characters. Here is the exact facsimile. I think it important to let these strange signs be publicly known, for they were the means of drawing on Professor Lindenbrock and his nephew to undertake the most wonderful expedition of the 19th century. Just to be clear, in the version that I have procured, it says in parentheses, runic glyphs occur here. Really helpful for my imagination. I imagine it to be a very old and tattered parchment with what has been scrawled in with the deepest, blackest of ink, ancient symbols in crisscross patterns, rising off the parchment itself, as if leading them on their quest. Yeah! The professor mused a few moments over this series of characters. Then, raising his spectacles, he pronounced, "These are runic letters. They are exactly like those of the manuscript of Snorre Turleson. But what on earth is their meaning?" Runic letters appearing to my mind to be an invention of the learned to mystify this poor world. I was not sorry to see my uncle suffering the pangs of mystification. At least, so it seemed to me, judging from his fingers, which were beginning to work with terrible energy. "It is certainly old Icelandic," he muttered between his teeth, and Professor Lindenbrock must have known, for he was acknowledged to be quite a polyglot. Such a fun word to say, such a gross word to hear, for such a meaning as to just, means you know a lot of languages. It's pretty cool. Polyglot. You polyglot. Right? It almost sounds like you're calling someone fat and greedy to eat. They're greedy with their languages, never stopping to learn them. Polyglot. Know your place. Right. Moving on. Not that he could speak fluently in the 2,000 languages and 12,000 dialects which are spoken on the earth, but he knew at least his share of them. So he was going, in the presence of this difficulty, to give way to all the impetuosity of his character, and I was preparing for a violent outbreak, when 2 o'clock struck by the little timepiece over the fireplace. At that moment, our good housekeeper Martha opened the study door, saying, "Dinner is ready." I am afraid he sent that soup to where it would boil away to nothing, and Martha took to her heels for safety. I followed her, and hardly knowing how I got there, I found myself seated in my usual place. I waited a few minutes. No professor came. Never within my remembrance has he missed the important ceremonial of dinner. And yet what a good dinner it was! There was parsley soup, an omelette of ham garnished with spiced sorrel, a fillet of veal with compote of prunes. Hey, prunes. For dessert, crystallized fruit, the whole washed down with sweet moselle. That is a delicious way to eat. I'm hungry now. All this my uncle was doing to sacrifice to a bit of old parchment. As an affectionate and attentive nephew, I considered it my duty to eat for him as well as for myself, which I did conscientiously. Oh, he's not having it. Oh, well, I don't want it to go to waste. It's just going to get cold, right? You're just going to here, I'll take it off your hands. Yeah, no, it's no problem. I'll find space for it. Just pass it over. That's it, and the prunes. "I have never known such a thing," said Martha. "Master Lindenbrock is not at table." Martha lives a simple life. He's at the table, he's not at the table. He's yelling at her, he's not yelling at her. She's just got to keep her head down. "Who could have believed it?" I said with my mouth full. More like, "Who could have believed it?" I said with my mouth full. "Something serious is going to happen," said the servant, shaking her head. I've never met this servant before. That's her voice now. "She sounds just like she's very wary of all things." My opinion was that nothing more serious would happen than an awful scene when my uncle should have discovered that his dinner was devoured. I had come to the last of the fruit when a very loud voice tore me away from the pleasures of my dessert. With one spring, I bounded out of the dining room and into the study. End of Chapter 2. Well, thank you folks for joining me for Chapter 2. I'm really happy you're hanging out. I'm having a good time. I hope you are too. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, have fun with those buttons and clicks. Oh, well wishes to you all. May the good vibes carry you on your journey, and stay tuned for Chapter 3. Hey, dude.
Hey, bro.
Hey, can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah, sure, what's up?
Well, so, I was on the street walking back home from the Walgreens, and I saw this hot girl. I thought I'd holler at her.
Right.
So I was like, hey girl, what's up? And she looked me up and down, no joke, took 1 second and said, holler at me when you have some pants.
Whoa.
I know, right? I'm like, I don't even know, what are pants?
Brah. Pants, they're like shorts, but long. It's what all those, adults wear when they go to work and stuff. 'Cause they have jobs.
Oh, pants. Oh, I get it.
Right. So brah, problem solved. All you gotta do is get yourself some pants.
Huh, all right. But where do I get pants?
Brah, that's easy. Just go to Amazon.com or click the link below.
Link below?
Don't worry about it. Amazon.com's got all kind of pants for you, dude. They've got brown ones, black ones, tight ones, baggy ones, purple ones, polka dot ones, fluffy ones, tight ones. Did I already say tight ones? They got tight ones. If you want tight pants, they have those. They have all kind of pants, bro.
Huh, all right, dude. Hey, thanks a lot.
Anytime, bro. Anytime. Amazon. They got pants.